It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Kim Hammer Show on what is, again, another beautiful Saturday. Hope that you're enjoying a beautiful day out there, getting to do all the renting around that you want to do, or maybe out in the yard working. Whatever the case may be, we're glad that you're tuning in to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. If you want to call in, the number is 501-823-0965, 501-823-0965, or you can inbox message us on our Facebook page. Got Ben over here, who's always good to track throughout the show. And if you get a question, and I'll just say this, while we have the candidates on, this is kind of the rule of thumb. Not really fond of anything that is, personal attacking, but if you have a question of substance that you want to send in and ask either one of the candidates that are on today, feel free to do that, and we will get your question on the air. For our sponsors, just want to say thanks to Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County at the Alcoa exit there. Glad to have them helping to make this show possible. Want to remind you of the housekeeping rule, and that is the views expressed on the show are those of mine and mine alone, and the guest alone. And this is just an opportunity for us to exercise our freedom in order to get our voice out and get a message out and just keep our Kansans informed of things that are relevant to Arkansas. But want to thank Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County. Again, number one dealer. What a record they've got going down there. And I looked at their Facebook page and, looked at all their reviews and everything. They've got probably the highest review record of any industry I know, which if you're selling that food stores, always glad to have them. To folks down there at Baxley, Penfield, Mowdy. Today we have two candidates on, and in the first half hour we have Tony Furman, who is running for House District Seat number 28 down in Saline County, which once upon a time, Tony, was my old House seat. There's been a little gap between you and now, or when I was there, but we've got Tony in studio today. And Tony, thank you for taking time out from door to door knocking to be here in studio. All right, so we're going to get right into the questions. If you're just tuning in for the very first time, what we did on the candidates that either asked to come on the show or were invited to come on the show, we sent them a list of 17, 18 questions, and each time we have one come in, we're going through the same list, so there's no, gotchas, favoritisms, or anything like that. And so we're going to begin with our list of questions, first of all, by Tony, giving the people a chance to tell a little bit about yourself with regard to your personal life and your family, and just give some people give the listeners a little bit of a snapshot about you.
Sure. So I moved to Benton in 2003. That's where I met my wife. She actually lived in the house next door to me. I was going in to seventh grade at the time, and we moved in. She helped unload boxes, and that's where it all started. She put me in the friend zone right away, and I was I was about 18 when she finally agreed to date me. We got married in college. We have two children, a 4-year-old boy named James and a 9-month-old girl. Lauren is a kindergarten teacher at Arkansas Christian Academy, and I teach there part-time as well, and I sell real estate for Crylike in Benton.
Very good. All right, so tell us something about your personal or business experience that makes you believe that you're qualified to hold the office of District 28, House seat, District 28.
Okay, so my experience, it's kind of a wide range of experience. When I was in 9th grade, I decided I wanted to be a pilot, and I never gave it a second shot or a second thought. In college, I went to Henderson for aviation, and I did that for 2 years, and then God started closing doors to that route and opened up some doors that led me into youth ministry and education. So as a youth pastor and a public and a private school educator now, and working in real estate and working with children in foster care. I have a wide variety of experience that's allowed me to serve people, serve students, serve just people from various aspects of their life. So I believe that qualifies me to be a public servant at this level.
So why are you running on the Republican ticket?
Because I'm a Republican. Short answer. But more seriously, I mean, it's the platform. I agree with it. You know, I became a conservative in college, which is kind of odd because that's not typically where kids go to become conservatives.
Definitely not.
But I had one teacher at Henderson State University that was a conservative, and it was the first time I'd really heard conservative ideas, and they just made sense to me. So from there on, I've considered myself a Republican
Okay, so you kind of answered the next question. That is, how long have you been a Republican then?
since college.
All right, very good. And what is your position on defining conservatism? Because unfortunately, in the Republican Party, we have some that want to claim to be conservatives, but in reality, when it comes time to vote, they're more rhinos, or they show that they're not true conservatives. So give us what is your definition and is included in the definition of conservatism.
The simplest way I can define conservatism is simply the ideology that allows people to achieve the American dream. And you can break that down as long as you want. I could spend probably the rest of the show just talking about it, but it gives people more liberties to grow something for themselves. Less government regulation, lower taxes, conservative family values. All of that stuff ties into the conservative ideology. And at its foundation, and I believe why this is one of the biggest reasons why I believe so strongly in the conservative platform, is that it recognizes God as the source of our rights. That since God gave us our rights, the government shouldn't be messing with them. That's clear in the Declaration of Independence when Thomas Jefferson said, all men are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And when you look at the opposite of conservatism, where you have the government and man, calling all the shots. So it's probably the biggest contrast there.
All right. So what about taxes? What's your position? What's your philosophy about taxes? And give people an idea where you're going to be coming from when it comes to the debate and having to cast a vote about taxes.
Right. You have to be good stewards with our tax dollars. I believe that taxes shouldn't be a primary solution to problems. At first, we should look to see where we can cut spending and make fiscally responsible decisions with the money we already have. But if we can't do it that way, then look into raising taxes. But regardless of raising or lowering or whatever, we have to be good stewards with what we already have.
All right. And with regards to your position on social issues when it comes or it relates to the establishment of laws, we as legislators, and for those of you that may be tuning in, I am a sitting state senator, started off as a state representative in District 28, which is the seat that Tony's running for. And just FYI, we will have his opponent on next Saturday, and so there'll be equal balance of time. But I know that as a legislator, we are confronted almost every session with issues involving society, whether that is like as in coming up now, the issue of recreational marijuana. You've got alcohol issues. You've got casino issues, gambling issues. You've got the question of the severity of punishment equivalent to the level of the crime that was committed. You've got death sentence. You've got abortion. So give people an idea of the direction you're going to be coming from with regards to how you would approach social issues that need to be voted on or legislation that you may even think about running.
So with social issues, it's kind of hard to talk about them all in one category because the way I look at it, as I said, part of the conservative platform is preserving individual liberties, and a lot of social issues get into dealing with individual liberties. So the best way I can answer that as a whole would be I'd like to preserve as many individual liberties as I can, but when those liberties start to impede on other people's liberties, then I think you have to legislate, if that makes sense.
Okay. With regards to, well, you mind drilling down on that just a little bit?
Sure. So probably the biggest social issue across the nation's abortion. But that obviously impedes on the unborn's life. You know, you're taking the life of a human person. So in that case, then yeah, I think we need to legislate to, make it stricter, make it harder. I'd like to see it done away with completely. But take the case of like medical marijuana. People have their own opinions about it, as a medicine, they should have that right to choose for themselves if that's a decision they want to make.
All right. So one of the greatest amounts of the state budget is allocated to public schools. Please share your thoughts on schools in general and state any position you have with regard to the future directions of schools or how you see schools shaping up in the future.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said earlier, I'm a educator. I taught at Bologna Middle School for 2 years, and then I teach now at Arkansas Christian Academy. So I've seen education from public educator's perspective and a private educator's perspective. And there are some common areas that the students need addressed. And I think the main ones, we need to see students developing more critical thinking skills. I've been, especially here lately, I've seen a pattern of students just wanting to like find the answer in the books. I can check off the question and move on to the next one to get done, but they're not evaluating what they're reading. They're not thinking, the thought process of, all right, how do I solve the problem? So we need to do something for critical thinking skills. Reading is important. I was actually at Pine Haven Elementary yesterday in Bauxite reading to students I read into 2 classrooms, a 3rd grade classroom and a 5th grade classroom. And the goal was just to show students how important it is to be a lifelong reader, that no matter what career field you go into, you're gonna have to learn how to read and read effectively. And it was cool just to see a lot of guys come out and take time out of their day to read to kids. But we need to improve reading skills and writing. The generation we have now with everything's all social media and abbreviated, and it's just really taken a negative impact on students' writing proficiency. So we need to improve that.
We passed a bill, I think last session before last, requiring that cursive writing is to be mandated being taught. And part of that is because so much of history is written in cursive that if you want to read it in its original form.
Right.
And so just a side note on that one. So a second great amount of the budget is spent on Medicaid budget. Share your views regarding expanding Medicaid services or how money is currently being spent on the Medicaid programs that we have now. Sidebar, we know that, the court ruled that the work requirements are unconstitutional. That's gone as far as it can go. So that is off the shelf, and we've got to live with the decision of the court. And in the case of Arkansas Works, we no longer can require a work requirement. So there's a lot of buzz and a lot of discussion about the future of how that's going to look. So what are your thoughts with regards to that, given the fact it eats up a big portion of the budget as well?
Right. And it is unfortunate about the ruling for the work requirement because you want to take care of those who truly need it, and you only have so much money to do it with. So if you have people that we're paying for that we shouldn't, it kind of eats up money that we could spend to take care of the people who really need it. But we just have to find a way to do it the best way, the most responsible way possible, where we're taking care of those who truly have needs, and then finding ways to fund it that's fiscally responsible.
Are there any particular areas that you are interested in working on legislatively if elected?
Yeah, something very close to my heart is children in foster care. My wife and I are house parents for Second Chance Ranch, which, for those of your listeners that don't know, it's a group of foster homes that just provides a safe and stable environment for children to live. And we do a lot for them, and there's, a lot of changes happening almost daily, it seems like now. But whenever they transition out of foster care, it's almost kind of like we're just throwing them out into the world and expecting them to land on their feet. So I'd like to see things happen while they're in our care that prepare them for when they leave. The trauma that so many of these kids have, it's more than most people can imagine. So I'd like to see, more counseling to kind of process that trauma, life skills being taught. And I think one of the things we can do for that is to help the caseworkers out, because they're so overworked right now, where some caseworkers might have 20 plus kids under their care. And this is at first going to seem like it's a non-issue what I'm about to say, but it really is an issue when you look at it. Is these kids have like clothing vouchers. Well, when one caseworker has to take 20 kids shopping, and they have deadlines and timelines to submit receipts and get approvals and stuff, a lot of times, not everybody, so I'm not, blanket statementing the caseworkers, but a lot of times they will go to these stores and the kids will just buy like their 15th pair of $200 shoes, and it's not good because one, they don't need it. Then they're lacking basic clothes they need, but then it creates a lifestyle that they're used to when they're in our care of having the newest pair of Jordans every time one comes out. And then they leave and they're accustomed to this lifestyle and they spend all their money on shoes, but now they also have bills to pay for that they weren't paying when they're in care. And then it creates poverty. It just kind of creates this repeat system. So I'd like to see things get done where maybe we can kind of tighten up, what we're doing with our kids to help prepare them for when they leave.
Very good. All right, let me just take a break here for a minute. Recognize sponsors of the show, Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County there at Alcoa. Go down, see Dwight, Everett, any of their staff. They will take care of you. In fact, I was in there this week getting my car service, had excellent experience with the service and the prices, too, for that matter. So you get certified mechanics working on your car for a very competitive price. Also, Edward Food Stores, you can even order online. They have curb service that will deliver it to you when you pull up. And the thing that I really liked about there is no self-checkout. Always bugs me. You go in these big box, you got to pay the same price as the people that are getting the checkout line. But the big box stores, they have one or two checkers, and they're forcing you, to do your own self-checkout and don't get the benefit of the price. Not at Edwards Food Store. They'll carry it out for you. And then also Baxley, Penfield, Mowdy, excellent realtor. I know you work for Karen Krausen down there, and she's a great lady too. We got some great realtors down in Saline County, but Baxley, Penfield, Mowdy, appreciate their helping make this show possible. I want to give you a sneak preview that next week on the show will be Marietta McClure, who is also running for the same seat as Tony on the Republican ticket. She'll be on to answer the same set of questions, and then we're working on lining up. It's either going to be another state rep or it's going to be one of the judges, and we're trying to get the details worked out on that. What's interesting, too, is on March 7th, we're going to have Dr. Terry Parrish, who is the president of the American Baptist Association, and we're going to have about the separation of church and state, and with all the issues going on, what's the fine line between where you can go up to but should not step over, or should there be a line at all? And that'll be on March 7th. And then on March 14th, going to have Dr. Larry Henderson, who is a licensed professional counselor of over 30 years, and I've known Larry for probably 25 of that. The military counseling service, and we're going to talk about why is our state and why is our nation struggling so hard with mental health issues. And when it comes to Medicaid funding, we are sinking a lot of money into mental health services. And the question is, how did we get here, and what do we got to do to get out of here? Tony Furman, who is a candidate for the House of Representatives. When you look at the direction that some states are going in, like Virginia, and I say that every week, God bless them, they're a special kind of stupid. What are the views of what are your views of Second Amendment? And if you want to throw in there your thoughts about flag laws and anything related to the Second Amendment.
Sure. So I think if we look to Virginia, we see an excellent example of what not to do. I'm very pro Second Amendment. I received an AQ rating from the NRA. And,
tell them what that means.
Okay, it's the best rating a non-incumbent candidate can get from the surveys that they send out to all the candidates. And I'm also the only candidate in my race to be endorsed by the NRA. So that was a big deal.
And the Q stands for qualified, right? Is that what it stands? Yeah, because they don't have a voting record to base it on, so it was based on you filling out their questionnaire that they gave you the A rating, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and expand. Anything else on Second Amendment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very pro Second Amendment. And I think you mentioned red flag laws, right?
I did.
Okay. Yeah, definitely against red flag laws. It just creates so many windows of opportunity for people to have their firearms taken, their Second Amendment rights infringed on without due process. And that's just bad on its face.
Okay. Are there any particular, when it comes to growth of government, how do you see the balance between meeting the needs of the public and controlling the growth of government? Because there are certain things that, we as a government should be providing to the people, but expand on your thoughts, your philosophies, your outlook, your position on balancing the growth of government versus meeting what would be called the essential needs.
So kind of like I mentioned earlier, I like the idea of preserving people's individual liberties, but we understand that government's necessary. So just like that, I mean, grow the government where you have to meet the essential needs, but also just listen to the people. I mean, throughout this campaign, I've knocked on a lot of doors, talked to a lot of people on the phone, and I've got to hear a lot of people's concerns. So if there's an area or something coming up to vote on that, even if I personally disagree with it, but my constituents are in favor of it, then my job would be to vote for my constituents as their representative. So,
okay, I want to go back and qualify one thing. I threw a blanket statement over Virginia and said that they're special kind of stupid out there. That doesn't apply to everybody in Virginia. It just applies to those that are trying to take away the Second Amendment rights of the citizens out there. And I think there's a revolt that's going on out there. And I hope that the people that are leading it are successful, because that will send a strong message across the nation that we're not going to tolerate that kind of mindset. Right. So what are your views about the infrastructure and the needs of the infrastructure of the state? There's a vote coming up that is out of our hands now that the people will be voting on the quarter-cent sales tax for the highway, of which recently this past week the director stepped down, and a Saline County resident, Lori Tudor, who has been number 2, has been promoted to the director of the Department of Highway Transportation. Know Lori personally, excellent choice, first female. Kudos to her. So what about infrastructure? What do you think?
So in regards to that, I've talked to a lot of people in my district about issue 1 coming up and the highway funding deal. And I've seen a lot of people just were split on it. There's a lot of people I know that are for it, a lot of people against it. One of my endorsers is actually against it. Me personally, I opposed it. And the people that I've talked to who are also opposed to it are against it for the same reason I am. And it's just amending the Constitution to include a permanent sales tax. It's just not something that sits well with a lot of people. I understand the roads have to be funded. Of course, we have to have roads to get to work. But I would just like to see a resolution that doesn't involve increasing the tax burden on Arkansas families.
All right. And then top issues that you see confronting us as a state. I mean, you're out there doing door to door. I know you both are feverishly getting that done. You're going to go back to it this afternoon. So when you're talking to the people, what do you hear and what do you believe are the top issues confronting the state?
All right. So the top issues that I'm hearing about on people's doorsteps are my stance on life, the Second Amendment we've already talked about, education, kind of what you'd call the red meat issues, so to speak. And I think that those really are the top issues, because we see them constantly being under attack across not just the state but the country as well. So I think it's important that we elect people that will fight to protect our rights and fight for our values.
Okay, so at this point, you mentioned about your position on life, and I think it's evident in the 30 minutes we spent together. What is your position on life? And specifically, I want to ask you, when do you think life begins and carried out from there?
Right. Well, I believe that life begins at conception. And I believe abortion is one of our nation's greatest tragedies. I'm thankful that Arkansas is the second most pro-life state in the country. I believe Arizona, I might be wrong about that, but I think Arizona is number 1. But with that comes the fact that we're going to be a target for people to, the pro-choice movement to try to attack Arkansas, since we are ranked so highly up there with the pro-life movement. This is an issue that's just really personal to me. With my work in foster care, I see all the time people try to say, these kids are just going to end up in foster care and our system's so overcrowded. So how can you be, supporting pro-life? And to me, it's personal, because these are my kids, so to speak, and it's like, you can't tell me that their life isn't valuable. And there's no such thing as an unwanted kid. There's people who treasure them and care for them. So,
all right, here we go. So we're coming down to the very end. We've had in studio today Tony Furman, who is a candidate for the House of Representatives seat, District 28, down in Saline County. Tony, I want to thank you for being on the show today. Anything in 15 seconds or less you want to tell the voters?
15 seconds?
Yeah.
Vote Tony Furman. Okay. 15 seconds. I don't know.
All right. Glad to have Tony Furman in the studio today. He's going to go back and get on the trail doing some door-to-door knocking, and appreciate him being. When we come back from the bottom hour, we have Rick McClure, who is running for seat 26 down in Hot Springs. No relation to the candidate up in Saline County. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to the Kim Hammer Show. See ya after the bottom of the hour listening to the news.
From Brown University economics professor Glenn Lowry, talking about the New York Times' project that's pushing a revisionist history of slavery in the United States. The 1619 Project aims to redefine America's founding date and its founding values. The 1619 Project presents a stilted view of American history. It tells of slavery almost exclusively, but not the Civil War. It covers the Tuskegee experiment, but not the Tuskegee Airmen. Theirs is a demonstrably false story of America as the forever oppressor and Black Americans as the forever victims. But the battle has now been joined. A group of leading Black intellectuals, led by Civil Rights Movement veteran Bob Woodson, have launched 1776 Unites, a direct response to 1619's divisiveness. Woodson is correcting the historical record as he said, in the spirit of 1776, the date of America's true founding. I'm Dan Proft.
Sponsored by ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom.
Across America, it's snoring season. Right now, 90 million Americans make this sound every night. Snoring can be caused by breathing through your mouth when you sleep. If you have a blocked or narrow nose, then you're more likely to open your mouth to breathe, causing snoring. Thankfully, there's Mute, an ingenious Australian invention that could quiet the snoring season once and for all. Mute is a comfortable nasal breathing device that sits inside the nose, supporting your airway and keeping it open while you sleep. You'll breathe more easily through your nose and snore less. In fact, in trials, 75% of couples reported a reduction in snoring when using Mute, allowing them both a better night's sleep. Put snoring season to bed, America.
Available at Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid and other fine stores. For more information, go to mutesnoring.com. Mute. Breathe more, snore less, sleep better.
The next Dave Ellswick classic movie is a story of love, betrayal, and redemption.
I think now I shall play a call on Yvonne. Maybe get on the rebound, huh?
Well, when it comes to women, you're a true Democrat.
From 1942.
It's December 1941 in Casablanca. What time is it in New York?
Casablanca.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world.
Starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman.
I was informed you were the most beautiful woman ever to visit Casablanca. That was a gross understatement.
Casablanca shows one time only, Tuesday, March 10th, 7 p.m. at the Riverdale 10 VIP Cinema.
Play it, Sam.
You must remember this. In Casablanca in December 1941, a cynical American expatriate encounters a former lover with unforeseen complications. Get your tickets now at Riverdale10.com. Casablanca, Tuesday, March 10th at Riverdale 10 from Dave Ellswick and 101.1 FM The Answer.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
As a parent of 3, I understand well that our children are faced with so many troubling things at school these days. But what other options do we have? Maybe you've been thinking about putting your child into a private Christian school. If so, you need to check out Pursue Arkansas Christian Academy. There's so many great things about this school. Pursue Arkansas Christian Academy has a year-round balanced calendar, affordable tuition and scholarships, a Becca curriculum that is student-focused and prescribed for each child's academic growth, a homeschool-like program surrounded by nature for pre-kindergarten through 5th grade, all in a fun, biblically based environment. You can check them out when you go to pursuechristacademy.org. Now, all of this is great, but what sets Pursue Arkansas Christian Academy apart is their teachers. See, it's not just a job for them, it's a calling. They're committed to helping your children grow in knowledge, education, and in their walk with Christ. It's located in West Little Rock, just off Chenal. To schedule a visit, call them 501-612-5443 or pursuechristacademy.org.
We're back. It's Gina with Little Rock Tours.
And Dave, I'm 11 The Answer. We've got another great trip to tell you about on May the 20th.
How would you like to go to Branson and see Sight and Sound's production of Noah on the big stage with 1,000,000 watts of lights, 60,000 watts of sound, and 4-story tall set pieces?
Plus 2 other great shows, one featuring our very own Brooke Martin. But that's not all.
There's a stop for a safari tour in St. Louis, and then it's on to see the Ark Encounter in Kentucky.
With a ride on the Belle of Louisville, the last true Mississippi River steamboat.
This Noah's Ark tour includes 6 days and 5 nights lodging, 8 meals, round-trip motor coach transportation from Little Rock, Noah the Musical, behind-the-scenes tour of the Sight and Sounds Theater, the Clay Cooper Show, New Jersey Night Show, the Belle of Louisville Dinner Cruise, Grant's Farm and Safari Tour, the Ark Encounter admission tour guide, and all your taxes.
May the 20th. Go to littlerocktours.com or call 501-TOUR-BUS and reserve your place today.
Hey, welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show. We're glad that you're joining us on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. And today, for the second half of the hour, we have Rick McClure, who is running for House Seat District 26 from down Hot Springs County. I'll get him to give us the geographical location of what that district covers here in just a minute. Okay, Rick? But first of all, I want to thank our sponsors coming back. Got Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County there at the Alcoa Overpass. We've got Edwards Food Stores here in Central Arkansas, actually over in East Arkansas too, starting at Forest City, going north or south. Either way, you can get them from either direction and in Forest City. And then also down Saline County, Baxley, Penfield, Mouty. We appreciate all of these folks helping make this show possible. As always, want to remind you that the views expressed on the show are the views of the host and the host alone, or the guests that are on the show. And I always try to have guests that are not going to come in here and just be off the top radical, but we do welcome healthy debate. And so I appreciate all these folks that are helping make this show possible. Just to give you a sneak preview of some of the things that are coming up in the weeks to come, next week we'll have Marietta McClure, who is also running for House Seat 28, which is my old House seat. We just had Tony Furman, who is the opponent on the Republican ticket. Marietta will be in here next week to answer the same questions. Then we're trying to get confirmed who the another candidate is going to be. That's either going to be a House of Representative or it's going to be one of the judges. And Benjamin over here, who this show wouldn't be possible without Benjamin Bowers that you see sitting over here on the side. So I appreciate him because he does a lot of getting things lined up. And then on March 7th, going to have Dr. Terry Parrish, who is the president of the American Baptist Association of Missionary Baptist Churches. He's going to come in, and we're going to have a good discussion about the separation of church and state with all the society issues that are going on and just with all the legislation that's occurring not only here in the state and throughout the nation. We're just going to have a good, healthy discussion about the separation of church and state. How close can you get to line without stepping over it? And have we stepped over it, or are we got a little room to go? And we'll have that good, healthy debate. And then on March 14th, we're going to have Dr. Larry Henderson, who's a licensed practicing counselor of over 30 years. I've known Larry for over 25 of that 30. He is an excellent counselor, has served in military as well and retired from there. And we are going to have the debate of why our state and why our nation is struggling with mental health issues. A big portion of your Medicaid budget is going to mental health services. What we want to talk about is how we got here. Why are we so screwed up, for lack of better terms, and struggling? And what do we got to do to get going in the right direction and get out of the pattern that we're in? Then some of the other topics that we're going to look at coming down the road, we are going to have a show talking about taxes. We'll talk about the Amendment 1 issue specifically, taxes in general, how much is enough, and, should we look at different ways of going about collecting the taxes in the state? What about a flat tax? What about some other methods that are maybe being used around the nation? And we're also going to talk about all the constitutional issues. I would say this about this. If somebody sticks a form in your hand and says, hey, we want you to sign this so we can get it on the ballot, my advice to you is this. If you don't want to stand there and read it thoroughly, you're better off not signing it than you are to sign it and then later regret it. And if you don't think one vote matters, look at what happened here in Little Rock, and they still don't have it decided for the House race that's going on here on the Democrat side. I think there's still 5 votes out. They may have came in since yesterday, and I'm behind. But it's all going to boil down to less than 5 votes, maybe even less than that, to decide that House seat. So one signature can put something over the top. So if you don't understand what you're signing, the best thing for you to do, just don't sign that thing. Say thank you, but no thank you, and move on. And by the way, ask them about their credentials when they're asking you to sign. Are they legally authorized to collect signatures? If they're not, you're going to tell it real quick on their face. All right, enough of that. We have Rick McClure, who's running for House seat, District 26 in Hot Springs County. And Rick, ironically, I was in Malvern this morning, and I saw your face on a billboard, and so I got to see you before you got here today. Tell the folks, if you will, where your district or what that district seat is geographically.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kim, for allowing us to be on. First of all, it is Hot Spring County, because they will get on to me if I don't correct that, because there is a difference between Hot Spring County and Hot Springs. But the district lies in a triangle that Rex Nelson is being referred to as one of the great areas of potential in our state, which is from Malvern to Hot Springs to Arkadelphia. Basically, inside that triangle is District 26.
Very good. And one thing I want to clear up, and we were having this discussion before, your name is Rick McClure, but you are not kin to Marietta McClure, who's running
Not that
against
I know
Tony.
about. Never have not ever met her. So
okay, very good. Well, let's get right into the questions. So first of all, tell a little bit about yourself regarding your personal life and your family.
Sure. I'm a grandson of a carpenter from Fayetteville, the son of a tenant row crop farmer from the panhandle of Texas. And we spent a lot of time in Arkansas visiting family growing up. And almost 23 years ago, married my wife, Cindy, which is from the Paragould area, with deep roots in the Newport area. Between us, we have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. Last 10 years, I've been serving on our Hot Spring County Economic Development Corporation, and the last 5 as a chairman. And the last 5 years, I've been a trustee at the College of the Ouachitas, now ASU Three Rivers, twice appointed by the governor to that trustee position. And then the passion dear to my heart, I've been the lead pastor of Life Point Community Church in Malvern for 11 years now.
Very good. Kindred spirits. Real quick side note, because somebody asked me this week, why is it called Three Rivers and what 3 rivers is it referring to?
Well, without going into a 2-hour discussion how we got there, basically the 3 rivers represent the service area, the Saline, the Ouachita, and the Caddo. And of course, the debate becomes, is the Caddo really a river or a tributary? But that's what we landed on. And that's what everybody agreed to, and I think it's going to catch on.
I like the name myself. I knew the 3 rivers, but somebody asked me that this week, and I thought, well, that's a good trivia question right there. So you know your district, and that's a good sign. What about your personal or business experience? You kind of hit on a minute ago that makes you believe you're qualified to hold the office of House of Representative District 26.
Right. Prior to becoming a pastor there in Malvern, about 20 years of corporate business experience with 200 to 600 direct employees to me over the years, positions of Director of Client Services, Senior Manager of Operations. In the last 5 or 6 years, we have taken the Mid-South Economic Development course over at Euler. We've actually went to the Economic Development Institute over at OU, have taken classes in business retention, marketing, community strategies. Then on the ministry side, have a Master of Divinity degree and a Doctorate of Ministry degree. To 2018, our county judge headed up a program called Hot Spring County Conversations. Through that, we'll get into all the details. We had 1,500 completed surveys. Most of these people we visited with in person, and another 3,800 people responding online. We heard from about 5,000 people in Hot Spring County about the issues. Their voices were heard loud and clear what is important to them. And so I think that puts us in a unique position to already understand what the people have been saying, as well as have been working with them.
That's a good sampling return, by the way. If you got that many back, that's a great sampling. So why are you running on the Republican ticket?
Well, when I read the state platform, when you talk about the individual citizens and the willing and capable management of their own affairs, when I looked at the local, state, and national governments must pursue policies designed to encourage individual initiative, when you look at the primary function of government is to protect the life, the common liberty, and property, and then the function of undertaking government should be performed by the government closest to the people, that our national stability and expansion of free enterprise system can be best assured by our constitutional principles. That's me. That describes me from beginning to end. That's who I am. So it wasn't a thought process of what party is popular in the district. It is a thought process of core values, and I lined up with that. And I have considered myself a conservative all the way back to Reagan.
So would that answer the question of how long you've been a Republican?
Yes, it would.
All right.
Without telling my age.
Very good. So how would you define conservatism? You've read the party platform, but in your own words, and the reason I ask that is kind of like you heard me ask Tony a while ago. Some folks in the Republican Party are there, but when it comes down to the voting time, I'm not sure they necessarily reflect the conservative values.
Understood.
So give us your definition and defend yourself when it comes to the term conservatism.
Well, let's start by defending our national state constitution. Let's talk about the responsibility of individual rights. And when someone is physically able, they should be a contributor to society. Let's talk about pro-life. Let's talk about that government should protect and serve, but always not be the provider. Let's talk about that government should be efficient as possible and not bureaucratic as possible. And let's don't penalize people for their success. They need to pay their fair share, but they shouldn't be penalized excessively.
Which leads into the next question. What's your view, your position, your philosophy on taxes?
Well, I have yet to visit with anyone on this campaign trail that is excited about taxes. One excited about taxes, but unfortunately, it takes a lot of money for our townships, our cities, our counties, our state to serve the citizens. Efficiency. Now, that's not a word you hear about when you talk about government process very, very much. But I feel the more money that's left in people's paycheck, the better the economy will be. That's a better cycle of funding than raising taxes, is improve the economy.
All right. And with regards to your position on social issues as it relates to the establishments of laws, I asked Tony, I'm asking everybody else. I kind of cite these examples. We as legislators, and for those that are just listening for the first time to the Kim Hammer Show, I am a sitting senator, started off in the House of Representatives and was blessed to be elected to the Senate side. And so as representatives and senators, we are presented with bills and legislation that kind of have to get us to take a position on society issues such as recreational marijuana, alcohol, gambling, and dealing with the penalty for the severity of the crime, capital punishment, abortion, all those things that have society impact. Give us a little bit of insight to your heart as far as how you view that with regards to passing legislation.
Well, obviously, the one big surprise is the openness that people are about recreational marijuana, and the balance of choice versus restriction, the balance of liberty versus law. We have the medical marijuana available for those who need it. For me, recreational marijuana is a no. People say, well, I can use it responsibly. Most of the time, what I see, that's not so much so. It becomes very problematic for the employers because any type of equipment they've got, whether it's industrial, technical, whatever it is, it requires full, unimpaired attention. And then people will respond, well, what about this? What about this? That's why we have the medical marijuana. The other huge issue is a pastor that I'm with is the opioid crisis. Some one respect. And people through the family, through legal doesn't fix the problem. We're going to have to come up with a different plan. Peer counseling, local professional counseling, looking for ways to get the medical and addiction professionals the tools they need at the local level. Those are all discussion points that may have a lot of different opinions, but we're going to have to go after it and really work on it. I could go on. Mental health is a big issue. And how do we attack that? And what's effective? Who's going to pay for it? All of those different things. But every one of these issues affects the family. It affects our healthcare costs. It affects our available workforce. It affects our economy. And it stresses the family structure.
So one of the greatest amounts of the state budget is allocated to public schools. Share your thoughts on schools in general. State your position, your philosophies, your views about how you see the future direction of schools, K-12 going.
Well, speaking about K-12, I am married to a retired public school teacher. My mother-in-law was a retired public school teacher. My sister-in-law is a retired public school teacher. My father-in-law is a long-term school board member. My sister also taught for many years. I graduated from a small-town public school and then went into workforce training, business training, later seminary. We have to remember that education is about the child. It's about the student. It is about the student. Then it's about the teacher having what they need, the resources and the time. I'm concerned right now that our teachers are becoming more and more burdened down with various reports that they have to fill out. Yet we've got to have the reports. We have 4 kids, all from public schools. However, along the way, one of them wasn't a perfect fit. So we had to choose different districts. We had to choose a private school, a Christian school, and tutoring. So we're certainly not against public schools because, and especially in a rural district, they're the cornerstone of your rural communities as far as social networking and economy. But we also understand that a parent should have the right to choose what they feel best is for their child. From an economic development standpoint and workforce development, we have to get these kids ready for a global job market in the 21st century. Not all the jobs are going to be based on a smartphone or a joystick or a controller. That's going to take a lot of work. Unfortunately, on the national and world workforce stage to be competitive, we don't have another 20 years to debate the issues. We're going to have to start getting our kids ready to go into the job market immediately.
All right. So another great portion of the budget is spent on Medicaid with regards to, Arkansas Works or traditional Medicaid, other avenues that we have to spend on Medicaid. So share your views regarding Medicaid services and how you think that should be approached.
Help the people that need it, and work to reduce fraud and abuse. I think we can all agree that children, elderly, veterans, the disabled, let's help the people that need it. Let's also work toward things like very unpopular words like validation and verification. I'm not sure how we get there, but we need to help the people that's in need and make sure that we are reducing fraud.
All right. And then what are any particular areas of interest that you would plan on working on legislatively if elected?
Economic development is something that is dear to my heart, as well as workforce training, which is also a part of education. Those are two areas that I thrive in.
All right. And then with regards to the growth of government, how do you see the balance between meeting the needs of the public and controlling the growth of government? And there's a, kind of a hot button word, essential services. So what's your view as far as how much should we be doing without being too much and limiting the growth of government? Are we in the right balance, or what do we need to do?
Well, when you look at the growth of government, we can't just look at a bottom line dollar amount, because as the state grows, as the population grows, that number is going to grow. You could have reduced government, but that number may grow. Through inflation, it could grow. I know it's naive to say the word efficient in government. I understand that. People just laugh at me when I say that. But I believe that we can work towards it. Look for the programs that are no longer relevant and begin to streamline. If we need something new, can we find something that's already in place to facilitate it rather than just creating another department? I like some of the things that the governor has done in these areas. And I think that we can make headway in that type of area. We have to have, again, a government that meets the needs in the most effective, efficient manner.
All right. You heard a while ago when Tony was in here, made the comment about Virginia. In my opinion, they're going the wrong direction, but there seems to be, a little bit of a revolt going on where they are looking at electing people that can, push back the people that are trying to take away the Second Amendment rights. So what are your views or your positions regarding the Second Amendment? And if you want to throw in there your opinion about red flag laws, you can group it all together.
Sure. The situation in Virginia is where we see the intent to restrict or wipe out our Second Amendment rights. It also shows us that people are going to rise up against when there is such an attempt to do that. So we would be wise to learn from their mistakes. We're going to protect our Second Amendment rights. The red flag laws that are out there being floated around are not good. They're infringing on Second Amendment rights. I will throw this one caution in, or one exception in. When we have a situation where someone has a documented record of violence, we have mental health officials that are telling us that there's issues here, maybe the judge needs to have an option in that case. But that would be the only case. Not in some type of, if I got upset with someone and say, I think they're a danger, we can't do that. So red flag laws, pretty much a no. There could be some extenuating circumstances.
All right. And as far as the infrastructure, the state amendment one is up, the continuation of the quarter-cent sales tax to fund the needs of the roads here in Arkansas would become the permanent part of the Constitution. So do you have any thoughts as far as how we address infrastructure needs, or what's your opinions?
Sure. Of course, the voters will decide issue one, but there's going to be an ongoing discussion about infrastructure. We have an aging infrastructure. Our cities, our counties, they're all dealing with similar situations. We have a system that needs to be vigorously continued with repairs and expand. That's not simply about maintenance, but we've got to expand. And the longer we neglect the repairs of the infrastructure, the more it's going to cost. The longer we wait on infrastructure expansion, the more difficult it's going to be to recruit new businesses. Site selectors recruiting us for a new industry, they don't want to see our 5-year plan. They want to see it in place. Now, the question is going to become, how do we pay for that? I wish I could tell you I have a good answer for that. I don't have a good answer, but we can't neglect it. We've got to move forward on it.
All right. Let me take a breath here for just a second, and want to just recognize our sponsors, which are Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County at the Alcoa exit. Go down and see Dwight and Susie. They will take great care of your needs down there. You can even maybe ask to see Bo. He runs the place down there anyway. Edwards Food Store, they are a great place for you to go to shop and to be able to get your grocery needs. And then also the Baxley, Penfield, Mouty Realtors down there at Spring Hill and Highway 5 in Saline County. If you're looking for commercial rental or residential property, they are an excellent source to go to. All right, so what do you see are the top issues that are confronting us as a state?
Education. We all know where we rank nationally in K-12. Now we know where we rank internationally as a U.S. Education, workforce development, continued job creation, new industries, attacking substance abuse, healthcare costs.
Okay. And then with regards to anything, just kind of a open statement as far as anything that you want people to know about your personal or political views. And if you want to, if there are any particular issues that are going to be relevant to District 26 that you want to comment on, go ahead and take the open mic for a minute.
Well, Rex Nelson in his 2019 comments, he talked about different areas of the state, and he makes this particular state. What I call the Arkadelphia, Hot Springs, Malvern Triangle offers advantages that other parts of South Arkansas don't have. An interstate highway, a national park, a national forest, 3 state parks, and 4 popular lakes. The biggest advantage of the knowledge-based economy of the 21st century. However, in the presence of 4 institutions of higher education, Henderson, OBU at Arkadelphia, what was Coto, now ASU 3 Rivers National Park. As we move into the next decade, Arkansas needs one of these regions south of the metropolitan, Little Rock metropolitan statistical area to do well. Such a reason doesn't exist. If the leaders of those 3 counties will get together and pull in the same direction, that future appears bright inside the Malvern, Hot Spring, Arkadelphia triangle. That is District 26. I'm working with our county judge, our mayors. We're working regionally now with the Hot Spring Metro Partnership. We're ready to go. Hot Spring County and Southeast Garland County is a great place to live, work, and play, and we want to make it even better.
All right. In 15 seconds less, your position on pro-life, abortion, when does life begin?
Life begins at conception. Anything is growing is alive.
And what about, we got a call in or an email from a listener about the Bill of Rights ordinance being pushed down in Hot Spring.
I was there when that question was being asked, and not knowing all of how that law is being written and the way it goes down, I probably just need to go review it, but I understand where he's coming from.
Okay, very good. Hey, you've been listening to the Kim Hammer Show today, and we've had on the second half Rick McClure, who's a candidate for House District 26, which is down in Hot Springs County, right? I got that right?
Hot Spring County.
Okay.
But it includes part of Garland County also.
There you go. Don't want to forget those folks down there. You've been listening to Kim Hammer Show. We appreciate very much you being here. Rick, I know you took time out from door to door and being down in your district, and that's Rick McClure for House Seat District 26 that's been in today answering these questions. If you didn't get all the show, you can go back and watch it, archive it from our Facebook. Again, I want to thank our sponsors, Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County, Edwards Food Store throughout Central Arkansas, and Baxley, Penfield, Mouty. We appreciate all these folks that help make this show possible. But remember, the views expressed are those of the host, Kim Hammer, and his guests that come in. Anything, Rick, in 15 seconds less?
Hey, It's a great time to be running for the legislature seat, this House seat. We think we can do a good job. Get out and vote.
All right. Good luck to you. Thanks for listening to the Kim Hammer Show. We'll see you next week when we'll have Marietta McClure from House District 28 coming in and one guest to be announced.
101.1 FM, The Answer. KDXE FM, Kamak Village, Little Rock, a Salem Media Group station. 101.1 FM, The Answer.